Nothing. He's useless. He's useless as the teeth on a boar hog, my friend.
Welcome back to the Middle of Culture. I am one of your hosts, Peter.
And I am your other host, Eden.
Eden, how are you?
I'm tired of how mercurial the weather is. That's how I am.
Okay. Tell me more.
It was very, very warm, like 80s, and then we were in the 30s. Now we're in the 40s, and it's going to be in the 80s again on Monday, and then back down to the 40s.
Huh. Okay.
I'm tired of it. Make a decision. I'm tired of having to swap between my air conditioner and my furnace.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you doing?
I am well. You know, we've had a little bit of weather whiplash, but that was geographically induced. It was spring break this last week, so we were down in St. George, and St. George was just going for it at like 91, 92 degrees.
We've cooked this world. As we talked about on the last episode, we've truly cooked this place.
It's true. But I mean, you know, if we're gonna burn, I guess we'll at least enjoy it while it goes. So we were hanging out at the pool. We were playing around. It was funny. I had a funny moment at the pool. So I have always been one of those dads that, like, I go to the pool and I am in the water, and I'm in the water with my kids the whole time.
Sure.
And we're playing, we're swimming. We bought a little football that looked, you know, that was like, oh, this will be good in the water, that we were throwing around and stuff. And we were there on Thursday in the pool, and Liz, Gareth, and I are hanging out in the pool, and there's a bunch of little kids looking like they're maybe like 4 to maybe 10. I don't know. I've gotten really, really bad at judging children's ages since mine have grown up. So I don't know. But we're there, and we're just like, you know, all of a sudden these little kids, they just kind of start chatting with us, and we're chatting with them, and then we're like tossing the football to them too, and we're playing with them. And the moms, it was like a couple different families, and the moms get in the water and they're kind of talking to us, and oh, they're from Idaho Falls, and the dads are just like over on their phones underneath the sunshade thing sitting there. And they did eventually come in and play for a little bit, and then they spent most of the time sitting on their phones. But it was funny. At one point, one of the moms just said to me, she says, "Thanks for being the fun dad and playing with our kids." And I'm like, hey, this is what we do when we go to the pool. We just play. Like, Liz will like to lay there and rest, and she'll get in and out. And me, I'm just like, if I'm at the pool, I don't want to try and tan because I'm not going to. So if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be in the water, and we're just going to be screwing around. And that's what we did. And it was a ton of fun.
I think that's really depressing. Not for you, but I think it's really depressing that all those other dads just wanted to be on Polymarket and watching March Madness. And I think that the phone was a mistake sometimes.
You know, I love it. I use it. I think it's a great tool, but I cannot disagree.
I try to use it less and less these days. You know, occasionally I will just leave my phone and I will take my e-reader or a book. I will take my DAP, but I don't always need the phone. And if I can avoid it, that's great.
I mean, I just didn't take my phone when we went to the pool. I didn't bother to take it at all because I have my Apple Watch, which will tell me my time. And if there's anything urgent that needed to come through, which there really never was, but like I could be reached there if there was something like a communication thing that needed to happen. Sure. But other than that, it's like, I'm going to the pool. I don't need my phone there. I don't want my phone there. Let me just leave it in the place.
The saddest part is how many of those dads were on Polymarket ruining their lives.
Probably. I didn't even think about the fact that it was March Madness and that you were probably correct. That was Polymarket and Kalshi.
There's a lot of evil in the world right now, but if I could find the guys who are in charge of Polymarket and Kalshi, the world would be a little bit better.
I don't disagree with you at all.
I think that the legalization of sports betting was a Rubicon crossing, and now that you can bet on everything, now that you can just bet on geopolitics, how many people are they going to kill today in the Middle East? This is the most evil shit on the planet. It's to its core evil.
It is reprehensible. I totally agree with you. But let's move on to something not quite so grim, perhaps. What have you been checking out lately, Eden?
You know, I should have thought about this beforehand. We were talking beforehand, and you said you had a lot of things, and I said,
I do. I got a lot.
I don't really have very many things. And now I'm drawing a complete blank. I don't even remember what we watched last week on Sunday night. I genuinely, it's been one of those weeks. It was a really long week. It was one of those weeks where I'm annoyed at faculty because the DEOs, so DEO is a departmental executive officer, the chair, basically. Okay. You don't use the term chair anymore because we had to, professionalize everything and give them stupid nicknames like DEO. Because that sounds like CEO, it makes them feel special.
I see.
Anyway, the chairs of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences got into a meeting at the start of the week and complained about how little help they've been getting with accessibility and how they just feel like they're out of the loop and aren't finding out that much stuff, which it was stultifying to me knowing how many emails I personally have sent those very people and knowing what other emails have gone out from deans and provosts and all these people who they really should be paying the attention to the emails from. Ignore my emails. I get it. I'm just some bitch, but you should probably pay attention to the provost's email because he's your boss's boss's boss. But anyway, so most of my week was spent in synchronous and asynchronous modes trying to craft what is the perfect email we can send to these people so that they won't feel unsupported. And the answer to that is that doesn't exist. And the worst part is they're not going to read it, because if there's one thing I've learned, how many emails does it take to get everyone to learn about a thing is always N+1.
Yes, exactly.
They don't read their emails, even though half their job is read emails. They don't read the emails. If I read emails as poorly and responded as sporadically as faculty did, I would lose my job. Anyway, I don't know. I read some books. I read some comics. I kept reading Ms. Mystic. It's cool. I got all of Death Watch 2000, which is this was interesting. I haven't finished reading it yet. It's the first big crossover by Continuity Comics. 20 issues, numbered 0 through 19. You're flipping through them, and half the covers have very cool gimmicks on them. One of the Ms. Mystic covers is a magic eye. So you do the magic eye and then you can see things. Or one of them had like thermally reactive paper. So you put your hand on it and then it would reveal the enemy. And I could never see anything, but it would change color slightly.
At least there was that.
Or, they would have, embossed covers or spot, like chroming, or the last 5 issues all have Tyvek covers instead of regular paper covers. But here's the clincher. So many of these, they're advertising, hey, as soon as Death Watch 2000 is over, Rise of Magic is coming, which is our next big crossover event, which did come out. But there's one problem with Death Watch 2000. At the end of issue 19 is a cliffhanger, and issue 20 never came out.
No.
Even though 20 issues of the next subsequent crossover, Rise of Magic, did come out, they never put out the last issue of Death Watch 2000.
That's not cool.
And here's the clincher. Rise of Magic, the next one, is the last thing they published before they went out of business. Guess what also ends on a cliffhanger?
Rise of Magic?
You got it in one.
Called it.
This is the real problem with getting into indie explosion comics, is all of these companies, it was a real boom and bust scenario. And when they busted real hard.
Yeah, I believe that.
So I am going to get to the end, and it's going to have this climactic cliffhanger about how Ms. Mystic has to go fight some dragon that wants to eat the world. That's never going to have any payoff.
Maybe you should write some fanfic for it.
I'll never write fanfic, but that's a cute idea. Here's the thing. I have nothing against people who write fanfic. Absolutely nothing. You know, I'm not here to yuck any yums about that unless you write Harry Potter fanfic. Stop doing that. Stop it. No more Harry Potter. It's 2026. We're putting it in the garbage where it belonged the whole time.
Oh, but anyway. Can I just say, good Lord Almighty, we are not. And the only reason I'm going to say that is because we were down in St. George and we signed into HBO Max, whatever the fuck that app's called these days. And every time we pressed play on anything, we had to sit through the trailer for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the new series.
Gross.
Yep. We were just like, over.
I have no respect for a single actor who chose to be in that in 2026. Sorry, John Lithgow. You're on the shit list now. Sorry, Nick Frost. You're on the shit list now. And also, fuck Harry Potter. Fuck J.K. Rowling.
Yep.
She's the worst. And every penny you spend on Harry Potter makes trans people's lives measurably worse. Every penny you spend on Harry Potter. So stop it.
I agree.
But other than that, write your fanfics. I don't care. But it's not for me. It's not for me. I respect it. I don't want to write it. I don't want to read it.
Yep. I'm with you.
Anyway, what you been up to?
Well, as I said, I've got a bit of a list here. So we're going to start and we're going to build. We're going to create a little tension as we go through this because that's an important thing to do in art.
It
is build some tension. So I finished, I basically, I had 6+ hour drive each way, down to St. George. And so listened to some more Dungeon Crawler Carl, finished book 5. I'm now into book 6. I continue to enjoy it. Interestingly, I can see both why people who really like it, I can see why they like it. It's interesting. It's got some humor. It's got the lit RPG elements, but they're not nearly as overwhelming as in some books that I've read. Like I really, again, lit RPG was one of those genres that I discovered, dove into really hard and burned out of really, really fast.
Most of them aren't very good.
Correct. And as I'm sitting there reading some of them and it's talking about the main character is looking at all their different stat points constantly and adjusting this and tweaking this. And, that stuff's in Dungeon Crawler Carl, but it's like a little bit here and there. Okay. Yeah. I jumped up a few levels or that kind of stuff. It's not overwhelming, but at the same time, I can also see why the people who don't like it. I get where they're coming from.
Sure.
It's working for me though. And so I continue to enjoy it. I'm on to book 6. I'll probably finish book 6 in the next week or two and then do book 7. Then I'll have a little bit of break. Book 8 doesn't come out until May. So then I'll take a little bit of a break from that and find something else to dive into.
Here's my one question about Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yes.
The covers that I've seen are very reminiscent of the cover to Ready Player One.
Okay.
Which is one of the most abhorrent books that has ever existed.
Uh-huh.
Is it anywhere close to as bad as Ready Player One? I mean, you're probably going to say no because you like it, but Ready Player One, we were talking about Ready Player One at the comic shop earlier today about how it is one of the most abhorrent books that has ever existed, and then it got turned into a terrible movie. Mm-hmm. One of the worst movies ever made by one of the best directors to ever live.
Mm-hmm. Proof that even a great can totally fuck it up.
And is just like the worst slop that I can imagine. The Iron Giant and the Gundam running side by side to fight against Mechagodzilla makes me want to claw my own skin from my flesh. And so I don't think Dungeon Crawler Carl is in that milieu, but the covers look like Ready Player One and make me say, this is not for me. Under any circumstances. This cover design makes me not want to read these books.
There are 2 styles of the covers, and there's the ones that you mostly see are the very fantasy bro looking ones. You know what I'm talking about?
No, those aren't. I've seen the ones that are like black with neon funky sans serif 90s font on it. And I'm like, oh, it looks like Ready Player One.
No. So most of the time, they're more kind of what you would think of when you think of like a fantasy, like a silly fantasy. So here I'm going to grab you the image of the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, which is the third book, and I'm going to share it here in the chat for you. The reason I like it is because the Mantars, who are some of the bad guys in it, I think are kind of hilarious personally. So, so I kind of like the fact that they're on here. So there you go. You've got Dungeon Crawler Carl fighting a Mantar that is a man on a man centaur looking thing.
Okay, I don't like these covers either, but I don't like them. I don't dislike them as much as the other ones.
No, they're stupid and silly covers, but
this is like, what if someone was trying to make a Chuck Tingle cover be bad? Because I think Chuck Tingle's covers are incredible.
It's kind of like that.
But this has very Chuck Tingle. Because I can see this man getting pounded in the butt by this Manotaur.
No.
Maybe I'd read it. Maybe if it was Dungeon Crawler Carl gets pounded in the butt by his loving buff Manotaur, maybe I'd be in. Maybe that's how I get interested.
Now, see, notice how Dungeon Crawler Carl does not have any shoes on his feet in this. That's a key thing because very early on, the AI that's running the dungeon crawl has decided that it apparently has a foot fetish for Carl's feet. So gives Carl all sorts of buffs as long as he remains unshod. And he gets like one of his upgrades, he gets a pedigree kit that if he pedigrees his feet, he gets more powerful. And if he stomps on enemies and kicks them, he does extra damage and all sorts of silly things like that. So
these really are like lit RPGs really are, hey, because I've talked about this multiple times, how every fantasy light novel from Japan, everything is gamified because the lens through which they see Western fantasy is Final Fantasy and Dungeon and Dragon Quest.
Sure.
Lit RPGs is just white people trying to do light novels. That's all this is, huh?
I've never read a light novel, so
this is just a white guy was like, hey, I see what they're doing over there in, the Executioner's double S rank squad of hottie baddies. I can do that.
There you go. But like I say, I'm enjoying them. It's fun. And the fun thing is, I don't know, I do like the two main characters is you've got Carl and then you have Princess Donut, whatever. Princess Donut is a cat that entered the dungeon with Carl and immediately got a biscuit that turned her into a sentient being. And now she is not his pet. She is the party leader, actually, because she had more level points than him.
That sounds great.
And Princess Donut is pretty hilarious. She's a great character. The interplay between Carl and Princess Donut is a lot of fun. So, I've played a couple games.
Tell me more.
Have you ever played Satisfactory?
No, I took one look at it and saw the gaping maw that it could become, optimizing the perfect factory. Satisfactory and Factorio both I have looked at and been like, this is an abyss that if I stare too long at, I will get stared back at. Well, and so I have not bitten the bullet on either of those.
I have fallen into the abyss a little bit. I wouldn't say a ton, but over the last week or so, I put in about 7 hours into Satisfactory. And I'm enjoying it. It's, it's a little bit elements of No Man's Sky, but not quite so, certainly not as combat heavy, have to watch your back sort of thing. A little bit of exploration. You're not trying to uncover some big, deep story. You're just, you have a snarky AI that dumped you on this planet and you got to start producing shit for the company.
Sure.
And the AI constantly reminds you that you are expendable and that your life doesn't really matter. And so in some ways it kind of feels like a light version of what we're dealing with in real life right now.
I was going to say that evokes also like Outer Worlds or
some of that.
Things like that to me.
Yep. But it's fun. I've enjoyed it. Again, I don't know how long I'll stick with it. I don't know if this is something that I can see myself once I kind of, I don't even know if I'll try and get everything done on this first planet. And I don't know if I see myself coming back, but I'm having fun right now.
That's what counts.
I started playing Blueprints. Were you familiar with that one?
I've heard very good things about Blueprints.
It seems weird game.
Yeah, it seems like it would require a little too much paying attention than what I usually want from games when I'm playing them these days.
So yes, Blueprints is very much I am not listening to an audiobook or a podcast. I actually have the app Taught, which is a very fast little note-taking app, open on my phone. And I walk into a room and I look around and then I have to hurry and dictate notes about what I'm seeing in that room into Taught to keep track of it. Yeah. But it's fun. The conceit is you're like, I think a nephew, this rich dude dies, big mansion. You inherit it all as long as you can find, I think it's like the 49th room in this 48-room mansion or something like that.
Yeah.
And as you go through a doorway, you go up to a doorway, and as long as it's unlocked, or if it's locked, you have a key for it. You open that door, and then it randomly draws 3 blueprints for you of 3 different rooms. And then you get to pick what room you're going to play, with the idea that that the antechamber to the last room is at the very, very end, exactly opposite the entryway. And so you've got to go in and you're trying to build enough that you can get to that antechamber, but you'll have to make sure that the doors are unlocked, or at least whatever door you try and get into is unlocked. There are puzzles as you go, a lot of things to pay attention to. Each time you go into a room, it takes away 1 move or 1 step, but certain rooms like bedrooms will recharge, and you can get items that make bedrooms recharge more, things like that. So, and then you'll eventually, it's kind of a roguelike in that you're going to get to a point where you're done. You can't go any further. You've either run out of steps or you've run out of rooms to progress to. You don't have any more rooms that have an open door that you can add on. Mm-hmm. And then you rest, you call it a day, and you come back the next day. And unlike other roguelikes where you're building up more, you're buying skills or weapons or things in between, it's your knowledge. Your knowledge is what carries over. It's the puzzles that you figured out, or it's some of the things about the house or the different rooms that you figured out. That's going to be what you carry over. But it's fun. I think I've only done about 4 runs so far, but I do think it's interesting, and I really like that it's just unique. It's not like anything else I've ever played.
It seems really cool. Again, I have not gotten it yet. I haven't picked it up yet. I'm, waiting until I'm in a place where I want that kind of puzzly game, but it sure seems cool.
And I will say, real good Steam Deck game. So
sure,
plays really, really well on the Steam Deck. Looks great, and the controls, obviously, there's no twitch. You don't have to be fast or anything. So it played really well on the Steam Deck. We did go and see Project Hail Mary when we were down in St. George.
How was it? I haven't seen it yet.
I really liked it. I thought it was great. Nice. Have you read the book?
No. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it. I know what the twist is.
Sure.
I was annoyed that they put the twist in the trailer. You shouldn't have done that, guys, but whatever.
Yep. But I liked the book. I've liked all 3 of Andy Weir's books that I've read. Artemis was my least favorite, but I liked The Martian a lot. I liked Project Hail Mary, and I thought they did a great job. I thought it had a good, strong emotional core. It still had moments of tension. They kind of really dialed back the science aspect of the book, which makes sense. It makes for a better movie. It's one of the things I really liked in the book is that he really goes deep into the figuring out the astrophage and figuring out the communication. And I won't say anything more than that, but it was a good movie, and definitely, the whole family liked it. Liz really liked it, and she was like, yeah, I'd totally go watch that again and stuff. So it was fun.
Yeah. My biggest complaint with Andy Weir is I think that he, from what I've heard, he writes a good book, but also he's like, I write apolitical books. I'm just out here talking about science. And you're like, that's not possible, dog. There's no, that's
true.
That's not possible. Also, you did write a book and that got turned into a movie about a man falling in love with a rock boy. That's gay. It was gay love. Exospecies gay love, Andy. That's political, brother.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but there you go. So I'm going to wrap up with music in part because, boy, it's been a big couple music weeks it's been was one big music week. This last Friday, the new album from Winter Phylith came out. They're a black metal band from England. I like them. I like them a lot. Haven't really had a chance to give their new music a go, but I've liked all their others, and I'm sure it will be good. I'm going to run down a list of 2 Fridays ago, so not yesterday when we were recording on Saturday, but a week ago yesterday, there were 6 albums that dropped from bands.
Only one of them matters, so keep that one for last.
That's going to be last. Don't worry, because here's what happened. I knew there were 5 albums coming out on that Friday that I was looking forward to. The first, the new album from the band Exodus. Exodus is a thrash metal band from the U.S., from kind of the Bay Area. I like them a lot. Goliath, their newest album. It's a huge bummer. Like, I was excited because Rob Dukes is back in the band, and I like his vocals better than Zetro Souza. And like the 2 Exhibit A and Exhibit B are, I think, 2 of Exodus's best albums. I haven't listened to Goliath all the way through once. It just kind of fizzled out. So that's a bummer. Gourea, Portuguese black metal band. Their previous albums have been so good. Their newest album, Loss, is pretty okay. The big problem is on the last 2 albums, on the previous album, Coma, there were hints of this, but it's like on Loss, they really leaned into emo black metal. I saw somebody on Reddit describe it this way, and I hate that it was so accurate. It was like, what if black metal Sleep Token? And I went, oh, you motherfucker. Because you're kind of right. It still has teeth, but it's it's leaning way too into the emo stuff. So
it's not for me.
Yeah, I think the way I was writing something down about it, and I said, it's giving me these so earnest you will choke on the treacle vibes.
I don't care for that.
Yeah,
if I want that, I'm going to go to emo. I don't want that from metal.
Yeah. A couple others. Ethereal Darkness, Echoes, used to be a one-man band. This is second album. He's got a full band. It's a melodic death doom with a little bit more kind of a blackened crust to it. Very good. Very good. Hanging Garden, Isle of Bliss. This is just sad boy, doomy, melodic death metal. Kind of what if Insomnium and Swallow the Sun had a baby, it would sound like Hanging Garden, and it's a really good album if you're in the mood for some melancholy melodic death metal. Interestingly, we also had the third album from The Holium, Ensis. Ensis is, okay, take Hanging Garden, but add in some more kind of doom metal and post-doom flourishes to it. Out of those 2, I'm liking Ensis from The Holium even more. But it's also a very, very good album. And I will say, these albums, these last 3 are all good enough that I have actually listened to them start to finish. More than once in some cases, maybe only once in some cases. But Eden, why have I not been able to listen to any of these other albums more than one time?
For the same reason that I've only been listening to one thing for the past week and a half. Neurosis dropped an album out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. A decade since Fires Within Fires. The band, for all intents and purposes, I thought the band broke up.
Everybody did. Everybody did.
So
I mean, last year, Jason Roeder, the drummer, who's also been the drummer in Sleep, and basically said he was unceremoniously kicked out of Sleep, starts posting up on socials, I'm getting rid of my gear. I'm selling my kits.
Yeah, no, I thought it was over. I thought it was, top 3 band for me. I thought we were done.
Yeah.
And that's good. Okay, I'm sad, but I get it. And then all of a sudden,
we'd had 10 years.
10 years
maybe
of
not
silence.
10 years, but at least a few years, because it was, they kicked Scott Kelly out of the band in 2019 when they found out about the allegations, immediately dumped him, but kept quiet according to everything at the request of Kelly's family.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2022, when he basically tried to come clean and said all this stuff, the band actually responded with him coming out and saying all this now, we don't believe it. We think this is bullshit. Uh-huh. This is still him being manipulative. So don't buy it. Like hardcore. It was very much like his quote unquote apology. Don't believe a word of it. Mm-hmm. And so we've had years now. We've had 3.5, 4 years from that going, okay, I guess Neurosis is over. Just to come to peace with the fact that Neurosis is done.
And we were happy with what we got. Fires Within Fires was not their best album, but it was fine.
Pretty good.
It was a good way to go out.
Yeah. And then, so timeline here. I go to work. I get up in the morning. I do what I do every Friday morning. First thing in the morning when I get up about 5 o'clock is I open up the new music in the metal section of Apple Music and I look and see what are the new releases. And so I'd pre-added some of these others, but I'm like, yep, I want to check that one out. I want to check that out. Want to check that out. Want to check that out. Great. Go to work. I'm in clinic. I'm playing Exodus and Garea, just kind of background music while I'm in and out of things, not really paying attention. I come home and I have a shit ton of emails, as I always do. And I sit down to go through and delete most of them. And I go through and I'm delete. And I always have on Friday a bunch from Bandcamp, because any band I've ever bought anything from or any label who I've ever bought something from, they're sending out stuff about either new albums or new merch or whatever on Bandcamp. It's a lot of emails. And because of the way Bandcamp works, it's one of these where I don't unsubscribe, because I'm kind of like, you know what? This is probably right now in 2026, short of going to their concert, which most of these bands I can't, seeing what merch, music, or whatever these folks are putting on Bandcamp is probably the best way we can support bands we like.
Absolutely. Like, you don't want to unsubscribe, because what if you see an email from Neurosis?
What if you see an email that literally says a Bandcamp email that says Neurosis has released a new album? And I sat there in the chair and I looked at it before I opened it. And I was like, no, they haven't.
Yeah.
And sometimes what'll happen, and it depends on, I think, a little bit how the band makes this happen on the back end. Sometimes the Bandcamp email will say has released, when really they've announced it and maybe released a new song.
Sure.
So I tap open the email and here's a cover that does look, it is in a Neurosis sort of style.
Uh-huh.
And then I tap on it and it goes to the page on Bandcamp with all 8 songs available to play. And a thing that says purchase.
Uh-huh.
And then I hurry and manage to click through, because me being the one, I like immediately go and I'm like, is there a vinyl variant I can find? And there was one vinyl variant that was still in stock that I was able to snag.
Nice.
And then I sent you that text.
And then and I'm just chilling. Like, you know, it's Friday. It's cool. It's the Friday of spring break.
Right.
I'm just legitimately like zoning out. And then you send me that email and I was like, excuse me? And I immediately rushed to Bandcamp, give them my blood money, and immediately downloaded those suckers and threw it into FooBar. And that's been the last week and a half of listening to music.
Yes. So, and I then like go and I'm listening to this album and I am like, I go to a computer and I'm looking and I'm trying to see, did anybody know this was coming? And every single metal website that is announcing this literally is saying, we had no idea this was coming. Nobody knew this was coming. In 2026, how they managed to keep this under wraps. Now, first of all, it sounds like it came together fairly quickly. They recorded it over the course of 3 weekends and then mastered it over the course of like a few days. And then because they own their own record label, you know, they just then were able to, boom, stealth drop it. And here's the first, and so we see this, and of course, I have to think to myself, okay, but because based on their announcement from back in 2022, we know there's no way that Scott Kelly's back in the band. We desperately don't want Scott Kelly to be back in the band.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, but Neurosis is always, I mean, the strength of their sound, you got to have those 2 guitars and you've got to have the 2 vocalists, even though if we're being honest, since A Sun That Never Sets, both Scott Kelly and Steve Von Till sound close enough that it was sometimes hard to know who was singing when.
Yeah.
So
the last decade, you know, the 2000s on, I have not been able to keep track of who was who, really.
Correct.
But I can on this one.
But then we go and we look, and it's Aaron Turner.
You know, from ISIS.
Like,
dearly departed, I loved going to their final show, ISIS.
Yes. I mean, and this is a funny thing is, back in the early 2000s, people would make the joke of the cult of Neurosis because you had Neurosis, Isis, and Cult of Luna that were like the three Titanic post-metal bands.
Sludge, yeah.
And so like here we've got Aaron Turner, who did Isis and then did Sumac and Old Man Gloom and all this stuff, heavily, like the first to admit, heavily influenced by Neurosis.
Oh, yeah.
Now he is in the band as the other guitarist and vocalist. So Eden, tell me, you've listened to this for a little over a week. What do you think about An Undying Love for a Burning World?
We're back, baby.
Oh my gosh. We're
back, baby.
Back.
It was, 10 tracks. Is it 10 tracks?
I think it's 8, but the last 2 are 30 minutes long.
It is. It's an hour and a half of we're so fucking back.
Yes.
It's so good, dog.
It is so good. I mean,
oh my God, it's so good.
It is such a good album. And
it's like, I've missed him. Yes. I know that, Through Silver's Blood is your favorite. So that's 30 years old at this point.
Yeah.
My favorite is Given to the Rising, which is
19 years old.
19 years old. And they've had a couple albums since even Given to the Rising, which I thought were fine. They weren't as good as Given to the Rising.
Nope,
whatever.
I agree.
There's a couple stinkers in there that aren't as good. Some That Never Sets is not as good, maybe. I have these, it ebbs and flows from their peaks to their valleys. This one's a peak, man. We're back.
Oh, this is a peak. I agree. This is a huge peak.
This feels like some guys who have been sitting on these ideas for a decade and not in the studio, which that makes sense to me that they were able to throw it together so fast because it feels like it's been sitting in the slow cooker for a decade.
Yeah.
And then you just pop the lid off and give it a stir.
Yeah. And, this is going to sound silly, and people who don't understand this, they don't get it, and that's okay. There are a lot of people, the older I get, the more I understand that a majority, I would say, of the population, at least certainly here in America, listens to music, and this is going to sound reductive, and you know what? Good. It's fine. I'm okay with that. They listen to music that is so disposable that they don't really care about their music that much.
Yeah.
And we've never been like that. It doesn't matter. Even though we're at a point where we have a little bit of overlap, but in a lot of ways our musical tastes have diverged. That's cool.
For sure.
But we still we connect with music. Like it is.
When it hits, it hits. And this one hits.
Oh my gosh. Like when it kicks off and the first track, I can't even remember what it's called right now. I'm blanking on it. The word torn is in there somewhere, but it kicks off. And Steve Von Till's voice just comes in like screaming, just screaming. And, and he says, I'm trying to pull up the lyrics here really fast. It says, we are torn wide open. The separation that burns our hearts is the root of all our disease. We have forgotten how to live, so we suffer. We've forgotten how to struggle, so we suffer. We've forgotten how to die, so we suffer. We've forgotten we are wild, so we suffer. We exist in isolation, so we suffer. And then over and over he repeats, the dissonance is deafening. The dissonance is deafening. And it is such this just like primal just shout at the universe of how we have fucked ourselves up.
How we've become so atomized and individualistic, and that there is nothing like the fundamental nature of humanity has been destroyed by modern society. That's what this album is about. But that the only thing we can do is build it again. And that's how I feel about things. Not only the music fucking slaps. If they were growling and screaming about Puppies and Kittens or My Little Ponies, it would still be a 9.8 out of 10 album.
It would
because
be.
The beats are fat and the drops are heavy and the guitars are so loud and the drums are killing it. And it's just it hits so hard. But then also philosophically, it's hitting so many of the high notes about how I feel about like both the despair that I feel about living in 2026 and the only way through.
You know, so in the song Blind, there's this passage that stuck out at me, and it says, nothing shines until we feel like we are nothing. Darkness pulls the moon from the ocean. Stars are blind, burning in the shallows. And then this is the line that stuck out at me. It says, while despair wipes away delusion. This is the thing about this album. And this has always been a key element in Neurosis's music. But this feels such a vital 2026 album because Neurosis knows that the world is dark. Mm-hmm. And that it is a darkness in many ways of our own creation. But as it says there, the despair wipes away the delusion. So, hey, you know what? The darkness can at least help us see where we need to go from here. Uh-huh. And it is this call that you really do, just over and over on this album. I get this is this primal feeling that we need to be together. Uh-huh. Humans need to come together, and that, things fucking suck right now. And we can get through this if we can get together and we can work together and we can rebuild. Like they make no bones about the darkness that is in there.
No. But again, this feels like such a vital text for this moment, because I think that is what we are seeing is we are feeling this despair. We are feeling this like futility in this atomized world, but also we are seeing some of the like most ennobling and like beautifully defiant refutations of that feeling and of that way of living. You know, we've talked about it so many times on this podcast. I've talked about it so many times on Devotees, that like there is a certain nihilism that comes with living in 2026, and that there's kind of two sides to it. Some days you wake up and you say nothing matters, and that's really depressing. But sometimes you wake up and you say, well, nothing inherently matters. So the only thing that matters is what I put into this world. Yep. And the relationships I try to build, and the lightness that I try to bring to those around me, the ways I try to help and love those who are around me, because that's all I've got. Yeah. It's a masterful disc.
It really is. It is. I mean, I forced myself to kind of listen to a couple of these other albums at least once through just to get a feel for them. And they were good. But I just keep coming back to this Neurosis album because, again, like you said, not only is it musically good, but it feels vital. There is this, and there's some, here's the other thing that I really love about this. How do I put this? It both does and doesn't feel like a logical continuation of where the band was. In some ways, it feels like a logical, okay, yes, this still sounds like Neurosis, but in other ways, this feels like but we're not just coasting. No. Aaron Turner has come in. You can feel him all over this record. His guitars have a harsher, more angular sound to them. His vocals do. Dave Edwardson, I have to mention, bassist Dave Edwardson, his growls have come in again, which we kind of missed on the last couple albums as well. Yeah. But there's a lot more. One of the big things between Neurosis and ISIS, especially back in the early 2000s, was as Neurosis was really playing with a lot more silence and a lot more really mellow stuff, Neurosis played with a lot more atmosphere and a lot of keys. Keys played into ISIS's music a lot more. While with Neurosis, it was always just like they were kind of like effects in the background. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Aaron Turner being there, it's almost like he went to Noah Landis and was like, hey, dude, no, come on. Like let's hear you, give us some organ sounds, give us some actual keyboard stuff, which like it fleshes out the sound more. It just, wow. I keep thinking about it. I keep listening to it. It's a banger, man.
And then I was talking with Cassie and I was like, I can't believe Neurosis is back. And then she like would pulled up their website on the phone. We were driving somewhere listening to it, and she was like, hey, they're going to be at some music festival in Montana this summer. And I was like, I mean, I can't go to that, but I bet Peter will figure it out.
You know, the problem is it's in July, and it's not very long after my basically 2-week trip to London. So I don't know if I'm still trying to figure out if I could make it work. Of course, you know, where it is in London is about 9.5 hour drive from where I am, because things are big out here. But it is, they're playing at the Fire in the Mountains Festival. A bunch of other bands got announced. The Fire in the Mountains Festival it's a pretty cool thing. I don't know. Did you look into what Fire in the Mountains is about?
No, I saw that it was all the way out in Montana, and I was like, well, not only could I, would it be hard for me to travel? I can't afford it anyway. So I did not really look into it.
Fire in the Mountains, I'm trying to remember where it is. It's a Blackfeet Nation. So it's on Blackfeet Nation land. And this is something that in the last year or two, Steve Von Till actually really got involved with, which is helping promote. And so a lot of what the Fire in the Mountains Festival is doing is it's raising in part money to give back to the Blackfeet Nation to help with suicide prevention in First Nations teens, because huge population that's just kind of ignored. So so that's what Fire in the Mountains is all about. And, you know, again, it just... you look at this and you go, yeah, that totally fits for this album. Like, this is why they would drop this at the same day, say, and we are the previously TBA act, you know, headline act at Fire in the Mountains, because that's something that's important to them. So,
hell yeah.
Well, let's get on to the main topic. And as I suspected, we went a little long. We went a little long, and it'll be interesting to see. So, a few weeks ago, I said to Eden, you know what? I was just kind of glancing through, and I don't remember why I caught sight of this movie. And I thought, I've never seen that. Maybe we should watch that. Because as we've both said before, one of the advantages of having a podcast like this is it gives us a decent excuse to maybe go and watch something or check something out that we haven't ever done so, but we're kind of curious enough that we go, yeah, that'll be fun to watch for the podcast. And so I proposed that we watch 1981's Escape from New York, directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell.
Yeah, you did.
Eden, what did you think about 1981's Escape from New York?
Is John Carpenter the best genre filmmaker?
Oh.
Are we going to disagree on our opinions about this one?
We are going to disagree so fucking hard.
I thought that as I was watching it and having a delightful time, I thought to myself, I bet Peter is not having a good time with this one. I, however, am having a blast. I think John Carpenter is a king. I suspected
you would.
That soundtrack, though, Jonathan, the one thing I listened to that was not Neurosis was when I immediately went and downloaded the soundtrack to this afterwards, because I needed to listen to those crunchy synths a little bit more.
Yeah.
You didn't care for this one, huh?
Oh, God, this movie was so fucking boring.
Oh, I thought it was great.
Oh, it was so boring.
It's so much fun.
Oh, I was just like, I got to stand up. I got to walk around while this thing's playing. What can I do to not just fall asleep?
I had so much fun.
And look, here's the thing. Can I tell you? Can I tell you what Snake Plissken does in this movie?
Nothing.
Not a damn thing.
Nothing. He's useless. He's useless as he's on a boar hog, my friend.
Everything. You know the hero of this movie? The hero of this movie, Deus ex fucking machina.
Yep. That's absolutely true.
Because, like, okay, I'm going to give a really quick plot summary.
There's not a whole lot there.
There's not. So I think it starts at 1988. Crime has risen 400%. 400%. New York, the island of Manhattan, has been walled off and turned into a prison.
The prison. For the entire country.
The prison. Everybody gets dumped there. Then we fast forward to 1997, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We fast forward to 1997, where, we've got a couple people trying to paddle their way off of the island. They're going through the water. They get spotted by a helicopter, and then they get blown up. Just blown up. They get told to turn around, and then they get blown up. Mm-hmm. We see our hero, in air quotes, Snake Plissken showing up, getting ready to get checked in. And at the same time, they're running around. Oh no, there's a plane that's going in. David 14 is oh, nobody knows who it is. And of course you immediately know what it is. And I will also say, as soon as this happened, I thought, oh, so this is where Phantom Liberty got the idea.
Oh, yeah. No, this is Phantom Liberty is like, what if Escape from New York was good?
Yes.
And I liked Escape from, again, I really enjoyed this movie because I really liked every John Carpenter movie I've ever seen. I'm like, well, that was a delight. To be fair, folks, I have not seen Escape from LA, which is apparently the real stinker.
Yeah.
The sequel to this very film. Haven't seen that one yet because I hadn't seen this one yet. Everything else of his I've loved. I mean, Halloween invents the slasher flick by itself. Assault on Precinct 13 is like one of the great thrillers of all time. The Thing, I talked at length weeks ago about why The Thing is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. He's the only guy who could make a movie about a haunted car be good.
It's
Christine's
true.
great.
It's true.
Big Trouble in Little China is racially insensitive and hilarious. They Live, Rowdy Roddy Piper coming in and saying, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum and I'm all out of gum. And you're like, oh, Duke Nukem ripped that off. There was a cooler dude who said that 7 years earlier in a very good movie. So like I was primed to like this one, but no, Phantom Liberty is like 10 times better.
Oh yeah.
Anything this movie has on offer.
Yes. It was very much like I say, it was before they'd even, so they figure it out and all of a sudden David 14, Air Force One. I'd already figured that out because again, it's obvious. And especially if you've played Phantom Liberty, again, the parallels were apparent. Anyway, so Air Force One's been taken over by terrorists. It's just in the midst of some nuclear negotiation summit, whatever, with U.S., Soviet and China, whatever. Who cares? No. The president, who is just the frumpiest dipshitty little president we've ever seen in film, goes and gets in the escape pod, which I think to myself, I'm like, really? You would have a escape pod that only he fits into? Really? Yeah. You're trusting the president. You're going to drop him and just be like, you're good, bitch. Go for it.
Good luck, buddy.
Anyway, they drop him. Air Force One crashes. The people from the prison go in and immediately, the henchman who's just, oh my gosh, this dude is overacting. It's like people are either underacting or overacting. And this dude is in the, I'm going to overact till I just can't camp. Anyway, he comes out. They show the president's finger that's been cut off that's still got the ring with the presidential seal on it and tell him the Duke's got him. If you try and rescue him, we're going to kill him. So they go back. And then here we go. We got Snake Plissken coming in, who's a badass for reasons that are never explained, who's going to prison.
Well, it explains he, in World War III, did that exact same move on the Kremlin or some shit.
He flew something over, yes. We flew something over Leningrad.
Over Leningrad, yeah.
Big whoop-de-fucking-do.
What's that? No one knows. It doesn't tell you.
And we don't really know why he's going into prison, to this prison. He's getting sent to the prison. There's something about like
stealing fraud, some Fort Knox.
Yeah, some treasury, something or other. Anyway, they're going to forgive him all of his crimes in the United States. They've got the piece of paper saying that he's been pardoned if he'll go into the island and rescue the president in 23 hours. Uh-huh. And he, finally, he agrees, and they inject some things into his neck that are going to explode into his carotid arteries that in like 22 hours will explode and he'll bleed out immediately. But they can turn him off with x-rays. Sure. So he's just got to go in and he's got to get out. So he flies a glider in, lands on top of the World Trade Center. The top floor is down to 50. There's an elevator that got power. He takes it down and now he's out there and he's looking for the president. He picks up the signal. He goes, he thinks he's found the guy. The wrist thing that was given off the signal is on some other dude who's just casually getting punched in the face in a bathroom in some theater that he's walked through, and there's some dudes doing like a burlesque type show. The lyrics of that song were actually pretty funny.
Very funny.
Yeah, that was actually honestly, that was probably my highlight of the movie.
It's very good.
That song was funny. We meet randomly Ernest Borgnine in there. Everybody who sees Snake knows who Snake is, We don't
get to know who
fucking
he is.
know why everybody knows who Snake is.
But everyone in prison America knows this man.
They all know who he is. He eventually, he meets up with Ernest Borgnine again, who's got a taxi. He's been driving cab on this island for 30 years. Lots of questions about that line.
Listen, sometimes your home gets turned into a prison and you just stay.
You just roll with it.
That's what you've known.
You just keep doing the job. He takes him, he tells him, well, the Duke's got him. He takes him to some place where the Duke's people show up, and then they meet Brain and his Maggie, who's with him. And then, anyway, they go thinking they're going to. None of this
matters.
None of this matters. They go thinking they're going to get the president.
By the bad guy. There's a big fight. The president gets saved by Brain and his girlfriend.
And then they have to drive across the bridge because Brain has the map to the bridge.
Because he's figured all the maps have been mined. I don't know why you don't demolish the bridges.
No, they've got mines on them.
But the bridges have all been mined, and Brain has the map, so they're driving very fast across.
Which is wrong
with mines.
Because and we have again, this is Snake being the hero, ostensibly, of this movie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't listen to Brain, blows the car in half. Everybody else is fine except for Ernest Borgnine. And then Brain, as they're walking across it, screws up and steps on a mine and blows himself up. Then they get the president to the wall. Here comes Duke. Maggie.
Oh, don't forget, Maggie stays behind with dead Brain.
Maggie stays behind, and instead of actually waiting for Duke to get close enough that her shots will do anything, she just starts firing off the gun when he's still like a couple hundred feet down the bridge, and he just runs into her and like basically cuts her in half with his car. He gets out. They throw over a harness. They pull the president up. The president gets up. Snake comes halfway up. And then the president stops Snake from coming up so that the president can then, using a machine gun down Duke. Uh-huh. And then they finally let Snake the rest of the way up. Oh, there was a tape that had something to do with tritium. And, and whatever. The president gives his speech.
The president needed to play it within 22 hours. That's why they had to get the president out. Otherwise, World War IV was going to start, question mark.
Who knows?
And so the president is a dick to Snake once they land. And so Snake makes a choice. It hands him the wrong tape. And so he starts playing this will bring peace to the world tape. And it's the American Bandstand music, folks. Uh-huh. As Snake destroys the original tape.
Just starts pulling the tape out of the cassette and goes walking off. I mean,
this movie fucking rules.
This movie's so dumb.
I loved it. It's so much fun.
I mean, just incomprehensible choices where as Snake is coming in and getting checked in, the dude at the prison who has this one just nice, big old fat gold earring.
Lee Van Cleef with his huge earrings, killing it, man. He's slimy.
He's just got this one big earring in his left ear. Anyway, the whole time going in, every time he says Plissken, Snake's like, call me Snake. And then at the end, when he calls him Snake, he's like, my name's Plissken. You're just like, oh, fuck, dude.
It's so good.
It's so dumb.
It's so much fun watching this movie, Peter.
So here's the thing. The soundtrack, and now this is an interesting thing. There were so many moments watching this movie that I'm like, okay, I think some of this is stylistic, but that there's a lot of this, which is the difference between how movies are made.
Yeah.
20, 30, 40 years later.
This is a 1981 movie, man.
It is. I mean, there are so many moments where a modern movie would have so much more, like the soundtrack or the score would be so much more present. Mm-hmm. And in this, it's just like silent.
Yeah.
And in a modern movie, there would be so much more of a use of like diegetic music. And in this, literally all we get is like the playing in the car and then the burlesque show. Like there's just not very much diegetic music throughout. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big difference. I will say this, the Foley work in this sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Like
it's pretty bad.
Now, there's the extreme of like, you think of like Rocky IV, where every time Rocky and Drago are punching each other, it sounds like a small nuclear explosion going off, which that's a little too far in the other direction. But in this, it's like every time somebody's getting hit, it just sounds like somebody's like slapping a wet tortilla on a counter or something like that. It's just like,
yeah, you're not wrong.
So, but like I say, like I don't regret watching this at all. I don't want it to come across as I regret watching it. It was entertaining to watch.
Oh, no.
But really, there's so many things where this thing happens in the movie just because the story needs it to happen. Like, they get up to the top of the World Trade Center, and a whole bunch of people are now up there knocking the plane off.
For no reason, and then knocking the plane off the top for no reason.
And so then they come down to the Brains car, and of course there's Duke and his people are in there. They've somehow been up on the top of the World Trade Center long enough that a dude has had time to remove the engine block of the car and climb inside the hood so that when it doesn't work and he can open the hood, he can come out of where the engine is with a gun.
Yeah.
They run downstairs, and this is where just magically we have no reason for Ernest Borgnine, Cabby's character, to show up. Wow. The only other dude with a car that we know of on this godforsaken island just shows up with a car ready to pick them up literally the second they run out of the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. Like, I just, the snake tattoo on Snake's stomach.
That was the clincher for me. That was when you see the snake tattoo, which it therefore implies is coiled around his member.
Uh-huh.
I died laughing. It was so funny. And
it doesn't look like, here's the thing. You're looking at it and you're like, that's just grease paint, guys.
That's the fakest tattoo I've ever seen in a movie.
That's just grease paint. Somebody just hurried and was like, oh shit, let's give him a snake tattoo. And they just like, so many things in this movie that I was just like, I see what you're going for, but you just didn't get there for me.
No, I get it. I totally get it. But see, I left that movie and I was like, I need to see the rest of the Carpenter films I haven't seen yet.
So here's my question. Does that mean we're watching Escape from LA at some point?
Maybe. I'm going to give you some time. I'm going to give you some space. I'm not saying next episode is Escape from LA. We might get there though.
I think we might need to.
But also, like, what's your history with Carpenter? Have you seen any of Carpenter's other movies, and do you like them?
No. The Thing is the only other movie off the top of my head that I know I've seen. And I hate that movie because of the way it traumatized me, because our father let me watch it. Even though it was on TV, he still let me watch it when I was 7 years old.
You were too young for that. So that makes sense. But no, I'm looking at this list and I'm like, man, he's made some real bangers, you know? Assault on Precinct 13. Now there's a movie. You would hate that movie too, though. I'm not going to make you watch Assault on Precinct 13. I'm just thinking about Precinct 13 and cogitating, like rotating it in my mind alongside Escape from New York. And there's enough confluence between the two that I think you would have a terrible time with Assault on Precinct 13. Yeah. It's a white hot night of hate, as the poster says.
Yeah, no, I just looked through his directorial, his feature films that he was either director or writer on, and I'm going,
Prince of Darkness?
This is, no, like, this and The Thing are the only ones I've seen.
You've never seen Halloween?
No, I don't watch horror movies.
You should watch Halloween. That's
I
one
don't
of
watch horror movies.
You don't need to watch horror movies, but you should actually watch Halloween 3 is the one you should watch, because that's the best Halloween movie. I know that is like the, well, you know what the best Halloween movie is. It's the one that's not about Michael Myers, but it's also true. It's also about haunted masks that kids buy at fucking Spirit Halloween and then turns them all into psycho killers. And that's good stuff.
Okay, there you go.
That's just good stuff.
There you go.
Anyway. You go. I had a blast. I'm sorry you didn't have a fun time.
You know, I knew, again, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself as I'm like slapping myself to stay awake. I'm like, I bet you Eden is going to love this movie.
Yeah, I sat on the couch. The only reason I even had to stop or get up is Liza needed to go outside. If that hadn't happened, I'd have sat there through all 1 hour, 39 minutes of it, just slowly sinking in my couch and having a grand time listening to those synths. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, that's a Carpenter soundtrack, man.
3 times. I was so proud of myself that it was only 3 times I tapped the remote to see how much longer does this movie have.
That's fair.
But it was entertaining. It was entertaining to watch. And I think I watched it and went, yeah, maybe it's not for me.
That's fair.
And that's okay.
That's fair.
And that's okay.
That is fair. We have to find, if I did posit, I did at the start of the segment, that is John Carpenter maybe my favorite genre filmmaker, we need to find who your favorite genre filmmaker is.
Okay.
Be thinking about it.
We can make that a quest for us to discover.
It might need to be. Is it Jimmy Cameron? Do you like Jim Cameron movies? There's an attitude we can agree on. We were just talking earlier today because we were looking at we started selling DVDs and Blu-rays at the comic shop because there was no place downtown to buy movies. And so it was something that my colleague Jackson, who's really into movies, wanted to get into. And I think I mentioned someone just donated 6 boxes of anime to us. So we used that to kind of, as a jumping board into now having DVDs. But there's this other, he's a film professor at the university. And whenever he has too many DVDs or Blu-rays, he brings them to us and we give him a little bit of store credit for them. And then Jackson was pricing them today. And there was a box set of the first 6 Alien movies.
Okay.
And as we were talking about them, I posited, I think Aliens, the James Cameron one, it's maybe the second worst Aliens movie.
And see, now I have to say, it is the only Aliens movie I've ever seen. All of.
Well, you should watch Alien.
And so I think Aliens I remember liking it when I watched it, but I haven't watched it since I was a teenager.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I think it's the only one in that box set. I haven't seen the newest one, Romulus, because I refuse to see it on principle alone. Because I hate what they're doing with AI Ian Holm. Sorry, but my Bilbo Baggins is dead. Yeah. Don't put him in the movie. Alien Covenant, that is worse. Okay. But I would rather watch the very campy Alien Resurrection than I would watch Aliens again.
I like Terminator 2, but again, I don't think
It's not as good as Terminator. Terminator is the best one. I don't think
I've seen Terminator 2 since, again, maybe I was a teenager.
That's a real teen movie. That's the thing.
It's one of those that I have zero desire to go back and see. And I'm looking at the rest of his filmography and I'm like, Avatar. I haven't seen any of the other 2 Avatar movies because the first one I was look here. I went and saw Avatar in IMAX 3D in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because my wife and I were there for something, and I was like, let's go do it. And that experience was cool. But I came out of it and I thought to myself, there is no condition, there's no circumstance on this earth that I want to watch that movie again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of feel the same.
So I think we can safely say it's not Jimmy C.
Well, we're going to have to think about it. Is it Ridley Scott, maybe? Ridley Scott's he's not really a genre filmmaker. I mean, he is, but he's not. He puts out, the thing about Ridley Scott is that guy just works. He's in his 80s and he still puts out a movie every year.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is I guarantee you, if I look at his list of movies, I probably haven't seen that many of his.
Is it George Miller? Have you seen the Mad Max movies?
I watched the first 3 because our father loved them.
Yeah, they're pretty good. You've never seen Fury Road?
No, that's when I keep meaning to suggest we have to watch for this because I know everybody said it's good.
Spoiler alert for next episode. We're watching Mad Max Fury Road, I guess.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I am looking at Ridley Scott's films, and I can look at this and literally tell you the only Ridley Scott movie I can honestly say I have seen start to finish is The Martian.
You've never seen Blade Runner?
Not the whole thing.
What?
I've never sat down and watched all of Blade Runner because here's the thing, this stupid thing. At the time I was old enough to actually be interested in Blade Runner, there were too damn many versions of Blade Runner to watch. I didn't know which fucking one to watch.
That's true. It's the final cut. You watch the final cut. You've never seen 1492 Conquest of Paradise with Gerard Depardieu as Cristobal Colon with Sigourney Weaver as Queen Isabel of Spain? That movie sucks. That's Lord a real Almighty. Bad movie.
No, I have not.
That's a really bad movie. Well, we're going to watch Fury Road.
Okay.
It is a movie that I actually don't like as much as I think most people do, even though I do like it quite a bit. It's not my favorite Mad Max movie. Road Warrior is still my favorite Mad Max movie. But if you've never seen it, you gotta watch Fury Road.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So
you're gonna want to turn the subwoofer up nice and loud and have a good time with it.
Yep, that's what I hear. We'll have to do it. But
cool.
Well, any other thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, but this is going to be a fun hunt, I think, over the next few months, maybe, to figure out who is Peter's genre director. Who does he like?
And here's what I think we're going to discover. I've seen far fewer movies than you think I have seen.
That's fair.
You're going to find out that I don't watch very many movies.
Well, that's part of why we do this, right?
It is. It is absolutely true. So, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And right there, folks, now you know, we're going to be talking about Mad Max Fury Road.
We can skip Furiosa. We don't need to talk about that one. It's not very good.
Okay. Well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And go ahead and leave us a review. Leave us a star rating. Share it with other folks. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.